Now let's look at some calibration. But first, we need to go over the model we use. It's a working page reference page model for those already familiar with Inca. Let's hop over to the Dataset Manager and familiarize ourselves with the features. You can see we're presented with 4 pages, 2 of which are used by DiagRA and 2 of which are used by the ECU. These should generally be mirrors of each other. Engineering workflow will usually be: local changes will be written to DiagRA's working page and will immediately be written to the ECU's working page. It is worth noting that changes will not be reflected in DiagRA's UI if they've not already been acknowledged by the ECU. When finished with their calibration work, an engineer can save it as a hex file on their disk and also save it as the future reference page for this project. Now let's unlock the working page so we can get started. You can see the working pages are highlighted, but this warning symbol tells us we don't have the same content on both pages. Our working page is actually empty, so if we simply download what the ECU has and run a checksum, we'll see that everything checks out. We now have a local copy. Make sure we have the working page selected, then let's look at our workspace. If we look at our maps here, we can see our floating point in a table, as well as on a graph and a few cutaways of this graph. If we right-click and hold, we can spin this graph around and look at this point. Now you can see, if we select a point, it will be selected on all of the graphs, shown in blue. If we select an area by holding Shift, we can select multiple points at once. If we select an area, we can use the default hotkeys J and K to increment and decrement, respectively. Though these, as with all other hotkeys, can be remapped to any desired key. We can also select an area and hit Enter to input a single value for all selected points. We can also make changes by dragging these points manually from any of the axes, and we can even move them directly on the 3D model. Here you can see me making such modifications to my working page. With a few changes, it's very clear to see how the floating points operation is affected.